School committee meeting of August 25th to order, and please join me with the pledge of allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First on the agenda is public participation. Is there anybody in the audience or online here for the public participation portion of the agenda? Next, we have reports and presentations. There are no student presentations, so we'll move to the report of the superintendent. And the four categories are district opening readiness report, updates on safety and security initiatives, enrollment projections, and HUD public school branding project.
All right, thank you very much. Just if you could bear with me, I'm gonna talk for a few minutes, try to get through it. It's been a busy summer, so I want to make sure I highlight everything that's been going on over the last several weeks, and just let you know that we are in really good shape to open up next week. Even though it's been an incredibly busy summer, particularly from the facilities standpoint, I feel like we're in better shape than we normally are a week before school opens in most certain instances. We certainly have a few things here and there that we have to take care of, some more major than others, but I do want to just recognize custodial maintenance crews who have worked, as they always do, so hard this summer to get our buildings deep clean, ready to go. This year they were working around some pretty significant projects as well. So I'll start with facilities. The image on there is the brand new roof that is over this section and the G-Pod section of the high school. The high school project, which for the roof, which is for $6 million, has gone extremely well. We have had great partnerships with the roofer, with the roofing product supplier, and with Train, which is the general contractor who's been working on the roof. They've had weekly meetings with our facilities department. What you're seeing there is a combination of the new liquid surface that was put down to restore sections and replace sections. One thing you'll notice is, well, I don't know how many were on the roof before, but it was a black roof, now it's white, which will have a significant impact on our ability to keep the building cool. So it's better for energy savings as well. We did get to see some videos. I don't have of them actually putting the sealant down. It's pretty amazing product that gives us that 20-year warranty. There is some insulation still left in the front parking lot, but that's just overstock. They're going to get that out of here. We have another delivery of the liquid roof restoration product that's coming later this week, and they'll use that to finish up. They'll probably be on this roof through the middle of September. But the noisy part, which is the replacement, is over. So when they're just putting down the liquid, there's no disruption to any occupants in the building. So they have been working really hard. This was taken by a drone by one of the companies that's working with us. Farley roof is going extremely well. That's all restoration with a couple of small spots here and there that they're replacing. We think they'll be off that roof perhaps in the next couple weeks or even weeks. So that's going very well as well. A much quicker project. If you go down to the gym end, you look to the right of the gym, there's that long hallway at the high school that goes down towards the athletic director's office and locker rooms. There's no floor there right now. We have that taken up. We're putting a new rubber plastic type floor down that's heavy duty and can take the sort of abuse that floor takes. The weight room is small down there, so kids often bring equipment out in the hallway and do weights in the hall, so it's something that can take that kind of abuse. And that floor's been down for, I think, 15 years. It's just in really rough shape. So that was a summer project that was planned. It's actually happening this week, so they're thinking that will be done by Friday. We finished the flooring at Mulready this summer. If you entered Mulready prior to July, you know that the lobby and everything left, there was a new floor. This year they did everything to the right. So all of the halls at Mulready have now been redone. The old tile underneath does have the asbestos mastic, but it's all encapsulated, and this new floor re-encapsulates it. So everything is fine. When we do that, though, we do have people on site that do air quality tests anytime you're working in an area where you're uncovering potential asbestos. They did check that, so that's all been checked. I think they're still there as of today, but they should be finishing up by the end of the week. I'm already kitchen. You may recall the health department let us know that we had cracked ceramic tile in there, which was a problem in food service areas. We had that completely done over with an epoxy floor, which was really nice and clean. Because our maintenance crew emptied the entire kitchen of all equipment. They did the floor, then they were able to repaint and put all the equipment back in. So it looked really, really nice. They did a great job. We are in the process of carpeting classrooms at the elementary schools. Already is done. This summer we completed Farley. And next summer we'll begin to think about what we might want to do at Forest. That'll all kind of play into our conversation about long-term plans, space needs in our buildings. But it's just, it's a better environment in the classroom when it's carpeted, it's quieter. We're finding year after year, we have students that actually have that as an accommodation. So we were needing to carpet classrooms here and there. And we made the decision several years ago to just start doing them a few classrooms at a time. So classroom spaces at Farley were completed this summer, and that's all set. I want to just mention, I have a picture. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, so those were planned projects that we had going on. And then we had some unplanned issues, unfortunately. So a water fountain was damaged this summer by a student kicking a ball. I don't think the student was being malicious. The ball was kicked with quite a velocity. This was at the recreation program, summer camp. It hit the bottom of the water fountain. It snapped the water feed and the shutoff. So they couldn't shut the water off. And then to backtrack where the next shutoff was, it took them, it was probably running for 50 minutes. Spewing water 20 feet out of the wall, out onto the gym floor. So what you see on the left, it's kind of hard to see, but that's actually a room that the mitigation company we called immediately came in and built. That room is 40 feet by 40 feet. They built it in the gym. They sealed it with re-mill plastic, gave it a roof, walls, and then they put equipment in there that actually raised the temperature and lowered the humidity and sucked 100 gallons of water over about a week through hoses that just through the floor. It just pulled it out because the floor within days buckled. When you stood on it, it was like you're on the waterbed. So we knew that there was an issue there. We got the insurance company in immediately. They've been excellent. Tom Gregory's been very helpful. There was a $25,000 deductible on the town insurance. The town hall has agreed to pay. This wasn't a school department function. And then we go from there. So after that was up for about a week, starting today, on the right, what you see is that same corner of the gym, a 40 by 40 section of the original gym floor has been removed and just it's destroyed. We can't salvage it. So what's there now is a 40 by 40 section of concrete floor. The original slab floor has been covered for 25 years, is exposed. It was soaking wet when they took the flooring up. They've got fans on that now, and the fans are blowing into the two sections under the existing floor to try and dry in more water that might be under there. I guess the silver lining is that it didn't hit the main playing floor, so basketball and volleyball will not be impacted. Sometimes they did have practices towards the back, so there'll be an impact there. What we think will happen right now is if there isn't any more water exposure, they're hoping this 40 by 40 section will be adequate. If not, they'll start doing another, say, 10 feet and see where they go. The hope is that they don't have to. Then the thinking is that we'll replace that section of the floor as soon as we can. If we get it done this fall, winter, perfect. And then likely what will need to occur is they'll need to refinish the entire floor next summer when activities are out of there, because they won't be able to get the finishes to match perfectly, but at least we can get it down and then the gym will be usable fully again. So it's unfortunate, accidents happen, and we're lucky we have insurance, and we're also lucky that the gym is still 3/4 of the way functional. And again, this company's been really excellent to work with, and they seem to know their stuff. So,
Brian, did they throw a shot on right outside in the hallway or someplace in the future?
I don't know. That's a good question. I can ask Dave what their thinking is. I mean, minimally, I know they know now with the shot. So either if it was possible, and the other thing I'm thinking about, Zach, is actually relocating that water bubbler. So one of two things: either relocating that right outside the door into the hallway, or when they put it up, get one of those cages that you often see in front of like clocks and other things that they can put on the bottom of
So
of
it can't
that,
get
so it
damaged
won't
by the.
damage it. Ideally, they'd like to panel it up and move it outside.
Yeah.
But I'll make sure they at least know where the shop is, so that it can take me 2 minutes as opposed to 20 to try and figure it out. At home, you go right to your main, but shutting the main off of the building like this trips the fire alarm because it trips the pressure off to the sprinkler system. So there's all kinds of issues to just shut the main down and make it a big building. They did a great job stopping it, but it was a little too late.
Will this impact anything when school opens, like homecoming pep rally or CAP presentations or anything?
Yeah, it should not. I mean, CAP will be later, so we should have the floor down by then. The pep rallies generally are on the main court, so they're not usually back there. We've got the red curtain down now, which, closes off that back section of the gym. The only problem we have right now is you can't actually get into the dance studio from inside the gym. An adult can squeeze by there, but cheerleading team practices in there. So right now, as they're trying out this week, they've worked it out that the team comes in through the exterior door and they just keep the kids out of the gym area. So, I'm sure there'll be some disruption to sort of how the PE teachers generally use the gym, but there's plenty of space in there and we're lucky that the weather's good so they can run classes outside, I think. But like major functions, we should be okay. Away from facilities, I do want to mention that there's been a lot going on around staffing, as there always is in the summer. We're expecting to have close to 60 new staff members. We only have 500 total, so we have over 10%. We had a large graduating class this year of retirees, so we have a lot of positions to fill. The last week and this week, we've seen some usual August resignations that have come up. Well, we've been very lucky. We had a kindergarten resignation and dual language program at Farley. We found somebody, which we cannot believe we were able to because it was on the Portuguese side, so we needed a Portuguese speaking teacher, but they secured somebody. We have 2 nursing vacancies that I'm aware of now, although I think they may have filled them both as of today, but as of yesterday, they weren't finalized, but I think we moved forward there. We have a middle school Spanish position that is still vacant. That was a last minute resignation. And then we've got ABAs mostly in the program already. Those are very hard to find. They're not the greatest paying jobs, pay a little more than a paraprofessional. And there's a revolving door often with our ABAs. So we will be staffed either fully or we'll have a plan to make sure that there's coverage where needed when we open next week. But I think we're in better shape than we often have been in terms of staffing right now. Knock on wood, the resignations could still come in, we hope not. New staff orientations tomorrow, so they'll actually be in this room, 60 of them. The HR department's put together a really cool program for them to introduce them to Hudson Public Schools. One of the pieces that I've been doing over the last couple of years and I'm doing it this year and I really look forward to is we have a student panel and I lead them through, I facilitate a discussion with them to have the kids talk about what is it about Hudson that they love, and what advice would they give to new teachers if they had the opportunity to do that. The feedback has always been really good from teachers listening to students, and we give them a chance to ask some kids questions. So that'll be at 2 o'clock tomorrow as part of the staff orientation. Looking forward to that. We've had a lot of PD going on. We had a responsive classroom training. That's a program that's usually elementary level that sort of talks a lot about how you organize a classroom. You've had younger kids or have younger kids, you might have heard them talk about morning meeting. That's sort of through the responsive classroom model. So we did a refresher training for new staff who are interested or staff that wanted to learn about it who had not. Benchmark, which is our literacy curriculum, they ran a 3-day training this week for any teachers that wanted to participate in sort of expanding their knowledge around that program. Great participation, by the way, so it's great to see teachers. I'm sure they don't love being in here in the last week of their vacation in August, but they're there, they're engaged with each other, which is really terrific. Judy Mera, Director of Elementary Curriculum, ran those programs and does a great job. Departments all across the district have curriculum writing every summer. They do different projects depending on what grade level, what coursework needs to have adjustments, so that happened. And then the picture on the right is our leadership team out at the Botanical Gardens. We were there last week for 2 days, and we looked at sort of 4 sessions where we focused on continuous improvement using the ed-eval system and our elements of effective instruction, which you'll be hearing more about in the fall. We'll come back and talk a little bit more about that with you as we talk about the district improvement plan. We talked about using data to develop and refine school and department student growth and achievement goals and action steps. We talked about routines around professional development, sort of making sure that we have some common themes on how we approach PD in the district. And the last thing we did on the second afternoon was talking about deficit thinking. So there's a lot of research out there that talks about sort of the deficit mindset or deficit thinking or deficit talk has a huge impact on student achievement. So we have the mindset of that student can't, or this student's a multilingual learner so they'll never get it, or this family doesn't come because they don't care. That sort of permeates the culture of your organization. So we're just trying to get better at figuring out as leaders how do we stop those conversations when they happen in meetings. It doesn't usually come from a place of anger or, more about maybe frustration or not knowing sort of how to respond. So we had a good session around that. Retreat. I just want to talk a minute about safety and security. There's going to be a message going out to families at the end of the week that will give updates around this. So 3 sort of big buckets. We've been talking in this meeting about doing a security audit after the squatting incidents occurred at Hudson High last year. So we have secured a contract with a company called Secure Our City. This is a local company. They've done these audits for a couple of different schools in the area. They've been great to work with so far. They've already come out to do just an initial sort of overview of our buildings while we were closed. And now they're going to come back out when schools are open and do some observations on how do our buildings work? Like, what does it look like when kids are loading and being dismissed? They'll go around, they'll check doors, they'll give us they'll check out our security systems, our cameras, and give us a comprehensive report around where they think we have some deficits and where they think we can make some short-term and long-term adjustments. My hope is that we could use that in November or December to come up with a plan with the school community support to put perhaps something on the capital request for next spring. Another capital item. And I'm thinking it's going to be a multi-year approach, but if we can chunk it out and ask for an amount of money for May, then we can do that project going up next, whether that be upgrading camera systems or they're going to look at all our entrances and give us recommendations on how we might be able to do modifications there to create more secure entrances, those kinds of things. So I'm looking forward to working with them and seeing what they present to us by the end of the calendar year. We have purchased through the software company Single Wire. We purchased 2 components of their software, one called VisitorAware, the other called Informacast. So VisitorAware will be, I talked about this at this meeting, our meeting before, but we're moving forward with that. This again will be in apparent communication to let people know when they come in the buildings. It'll be a little bit different. We've developed an internal protocol that we've already shared with our administrative assistant union president. We have a training scheduled on August 31st for the administrative assistants. They'll be the ones that mostly be managing visitors. We've had conversations with principals so they know generally how this is going to work. It'll be a little bumpy at the beginning because any new system is, but we'll work through that. I think what's important to note is that and I don't want to get into protocols publicly because I think it's important that we don't share all those details, but that we have backup systems in place for instances where someone forgets an ID or doesn't have an ID. I don't want families to think that we're not going to let you in the building because you don't have the ability to use our scan system. If it's a repeat issue that we can't sort of understand, and it's not due to something that's sort of beyond their control, then we'll have a conversation. But we're not using it to keep people out. We're using that to keep the people that are in safe and make sure that we're careful on that. The other piece I want to note, because I think the concerns around the VisitorAware that were raised by the public after I talked about in July. What I'm gathering from conversations with people is that one of the biggest issues is a worry that there might be a connection with this ID scanning and ICE. So we have statements from Single Wire that talks about specifically which databases it runs against, right? It was in your packet, but just for people that are watching at home, it runs your information against the National Sex Offender Public website, FBI watch lists, okay? And a custom database that we can maintain. We occasionally have a parent or a guardian that has a no contact order. We can enter them into that system. It's just an added layer of protection in case they come in and try and withdraw a student. It does not check the National Crime Information Center database. It does not check a person's criminal history, which is a CORI. It does not check civil records, and it does not check current or outstanding warrants. And lastly, it does not touch any databases associated with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, which is nice. So none of those databases are connected to this system. They have no ability to get any of this information from us. The Hudson police don't have access to our records, right? If someone gave us a subpoena, we'd have to go through our lawyers and see what we'd have to release. But I just want people to know it's just those databases that it's checking.
And it's not in the parking lot, it's not reading license plates.
Correct. Yes, it's not associated with the flock cameras at all. It's not, that camera is localized on the iPad and it's just capturing it. I used the word facial recognition at the July meeting, and that got people nervous, and I understand why. What I was trying to point out with that is that we believe the system has the ability to remember you once it scans your ID, so you don't have to go through that each time. It will see your face on the front camera and match it up to the times you signed in before, and it just expedites the process.
It will be at all 5 schools, correct?
And Absent Street.
What about you?
No, because it's not, we talked about this, but it's not our program, so I could have a follow-up with Steve if he feels like he'd like to include it, and we can talk with him about how he might want to do that, but.
Where will it be located?
So Ellen went around back in June and talked with each principal, and they marked the spot at each entry. So, yeah.
So it's after you walk into the building?
Yes,
They
yeah.
buzz you in and then you go to the front office and do all this?
You only use the system if you're going beyond the office for a meeting, or right. If you're just there to drop off your child's lunch, or you're just even there to dismiss them, you don't need to go through this process because you're not technically, you're staying.
I was under the impression that's to get you in. Okay.
No. That's just works.
You better.
Yeah.
Not there yet. So did you find out where the images are stored?
Yes, I didn't bring that piece of paper with me. I think it's just.
Is it, do you know our server, their server?
No, it's theirs.
Theirs.
But they have an agreement that's very clear that they don't, that we have with them that shows that they don't distribute that or share that with any third party. And I believe it's on us to determine when it gets recycled and wiped, right? So you can store it for so long. It's something Ellen and I have to talk about when we want to set that to be. Is that every 3 months we have them wipe the database. I believe when they do that, then the idea of walking up and being remembered would be gone. So perhaps we decide to do it every school year. I don't know. Yeah, so if an agency, say, went to them and said, we need this information, they wouldn't be authorized to release that.
And through like the space needs studies, if anything needs to move or change, these are things that can be picked up and moved?
Yeah, they're mounted only, but they can be remounted. So we talked about having something that was mobile, but the fear was that like if someone got placing iPads in a few months if they get knocked over. So they're actually mounted to that. But they can be moved.
Brian, some of the records that they don't access, for example, like outstanding warrants, is that something that this company just doesn't do, or that we're electing not for them not to?
They don't, the software doesn't do that. It's not an option. And some of them, like when I thought about, it was in the conversation, it might have been Chris and I talking this through, but when we run CORI checks on parent volunteers, and like inevitably something comes up that happened when the parent was 18 years old and in college, and it got me thinking, oh my gosh, like does it run against the CORI? And then I'm going to get these red flags because somebody, stole a stop sign when they were 19, on campus or something. Because those come up when we run CORI checks. Thank you. And that's why we check it. It doesn't do that, right? Which I totally understand. Like that's not what we're looking for. I mean, the sex offender database is the most important one for us. So see if I even understand what Ellen gave me, but stored as a series of encrypted geometric coordinates. That's what the information is stored as, along with only the visitor-aware ID number. It stores an encrypted mathematical representation of facial geometry. It doesn't even store your image. That cannot be reverse engineered back into an image.
That's cool. And so ID numbers versus names, so it's de-identified.
De-identified. Yeah, but it's a cloud hosted. I don't know what SaaS platform is, but somebody at the table may.
It's pronounced SAS, so.
There we go. Okay. Single wire uses commercially reasonable technical, organizational, and physical safeguards to maintain the security and privacy of visitors. And then, you know, this is a company that's widely used, so it's not, I mean, we feel good about pioneering, Pioneer District trying to use single wire, so. The other element of single wire that we purchased is something called Informacast. There will be some information on the parents on this. This is not front facing, this is internal. And it's gonna help us better communicate with the adults in the building in the event of, say, a lockdown or any kind of crisis. It eliminates the need for us to rely on public address system to make it right. But at the same time, it does have the ability to take over our telephones in our classrooms that have little speakers on them. So messages can go through there. It can take over and send a message to laptops that are on our server. And it can, depending on the building, can actually tap into the public address system. Staff will be told that if they download the app on their personal cell phones, it'll be a choice. We can't require them to do that. That messages would also get pushed to their handheld devices that they have in there.
That'd be nice if they're like out at recess and they miss,
Yeah.
not in front of their computers.
Yeah, and I'm hoping, I mean, there'll be some that will be concerned and won't want it, but it's not sort of one of these things where we're giving them information. It's just, it'll be activated if there's a crisis, right?
Yeah.
And that's just to give them
Wait, never
information.
activated.
So it's, you know, we're looking forward to that. The other piece that it has, the component that it has that we will work in September to, you know, tabletop exercise around is a reunification component. So it allows us, if you know, you at the high school on that first swatting call where a lot of kids were dismissed, it was, you know, it was busy and chaotic where a lot of people were trying to get their kids home. And we were using paper and we were trying, you know, to track everybody. So this does it for us electronically and helps us communicate with teachers directly around so-and-so's guardian is here, we need them to come down, so forth. So there's a lot of potential there and we're excited about it. The third piece that I was going to mention tonight is a shift from ALICE protocols to what we're calling they call SRP, which is the Standard Response Protocol. One of the nice things about single wire is they're actually in line with Standard Response Protocol, which is becoming sort of more than one across the country as schools are moving away from ALICE. SRP has a much more concise and consistent language, and it is more appropriate for younger students. The actual training materials that they have, the books that you can read with kids that are more appropriate around, you know, what it means to hold or secure or lock down or evacuate or shelter. Those are the 5 items that are consistent. We will have these for each classroom ready to start the year. We're working on, we may not have it right away at the beginning, but they have this actually for the size of the back of an ID that we can get labels for, so staff can put them behind right on their IDs that they'll have with them. The police have already been trained on SRP, so Chad Kroger will help me do the presentation on the morning of the 31st to get staff oriented around the SRP protocol. It is a free protocol, but it's a good free protocol. Sometimes you get what you pay for, but that's not the sense that I get with the SRP. The materials are easy to access, and we'll have a very simple system in place. So it's not about special codes. It's not about, right, it's very simple protocols. You know, the mantra is lock down, locks, lights, out of sight. Like just to try and get people sort of these adults to understand that it's these simple tasks that you do. In these classroom posters, which will be small, but they'll be this size. under lockdown, it says, this is what students do, and here are the 6 things adults do, right? So it gives a quick reminder of that situation, so.
And they're doing that for all grades?
Always.
Kindergarten through.
Yep, and we'll work in September with the police and principals around sort of what the training, where you drill and where you, they might use, the elementary school start by using one of the SEL blocks, for example, to introduce kids to the terminology.
Parents know when that will be brought into the classroom?
Yep, we'll make sure we communicate that. So I'll do a general overview with people in my welcome back message at the end of this week. And then as we roll out drills and all the training, we'll make sure that
That's always nice. Thank you.
Oh, no. I was just gonna mention that I just did a quick search on visitor care. And it looks like they meet all the Massachusetts requirements, so they're fully compliant from a data privacy perspective.
Yes, that's something Ellen is excellent about. Every software we use in the district has that, has the agreement that we need to have to be compliant. So she did a lot of work on that over the last few years to get us to make sure that every piece of software we're using is where it needs to be, so.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay, so I'll just wrap up quickly with enrollment. Sorry, I told you I was going to talk and then I'll stop. We're a little bit down where we were when we closed, but that's not unusual, about 1.1%. There will be students that will enroll over the next several weeks, but at the same time, keep in mind that there are always families that move in the summer that we don't know about, and then we don't sort of catch up with them until a couple of weeks after school starts, right? We'll see them absent, we'll make phone calls, and usually it takes us a couple of weeks to kind of clean up any families that have moved. But in your packet, I showed you where we are with our elementary. I talked a little bit about some of the adjustments we had to make on enrollment for kindergarten. At Forest was lower than we anticipated. We thought we were going to have between 70 and 74 kindergartners at Forest, and we enrolled after the dual language shift. We have 57. So we did not need 4 sections of K. What we did is we shifted a K teacher to grade 1, which really helps because our grade 1 numbers were actually high. Because we only had 3 sections and they were going to be 22-ish kids in a grade 1 classroom, which is not ideal. So this shift puts us in a much better spot for grade 1. You'll see the dual language numbers generally are on the higher side, and that's by choice. The teachers and program leaders and parents know that we're shooting for 44 kids in a section. But I think what you can keep in mind there is that while those class sizes are high, they are partner classrooms, so there is a lot of extra support and overlap that happens. So it's a different sort of environment in the local classroom. So, we were able to get some kids off the waiting list and get those cohorts up to where we would hope that they would be. It's a great problem to have. We do have a few kids still left on the waiting list. Numbers at Farley are right now a little small. That's usually the school that we see enrollment happen late in the summer, so we'll keep our eye out there. The K class sits at about 187, which is a little bit smaller than we were trending the last couple of years, which are close to 200. But the elementaries will open right now. If they open today at 9:42, all 3 of them will be closed at 9:49. So there are 7 fewer kids at our elementaries as we open them when we closed. Middle school has a large increase. We closed the middle school last year with 527, and we will, if we open today, we open with 548. Only 12 students left from grade 5 to go to Anderson, grade 6. So 3 healthy classes at Quinn.
It's 212 student.
Too small.
In a row.
Yeah.
Will you add a dual language row to middle school here, or are you just going to keep?
Yeah, I have to think about how I didn't think about how I represent
I know,
that
but they're
because
not
they're not, yeah, it's interesting. Because then one of the teams does serve dual language, but it's not only dual language, but they're mixed because they supplement. So I have to think about how I do that.
Yeah.
But we'll have 190 in grade 5 and 190 in grade 7. So those are 2 healthy classes there. That 168 represents the 12 that left to head to Anderson. We did have 51 as of yesterday as an ask to transfer out of grade 9. So you can see the high school actually open at 7:01 if we open today, closing at 7:40. There are some school choice applications pending for the high school that we should clear up this week, but it's only a couple of 3 of them. that have come in. So we're following up with those as quickly, checking out, find a way to welcome those families into Hudson. So I'll give you more enrollment on the 8th when we have our next meeting. You can see sort of actually how we open. And then lastly, you're starting to see this all over the place. When we did some work this summer with a consultant who was brought to us through Leah Owen, who was a consultant that we work with around our social media presence and our marketing. This company helped us with a rebrand of the district. So what you're looking at there on the left is the district's brand mark, which is the H for Hudson. That middle image, if you don't see it yet, is a representation of the bridge over the Assabet, the footbridge. They were trying to find something sort of iconic for Hudson that they thought might capture us. What we liked about the bridge theme is it has many meanings. You can think about bridging pre-K to 12. You can think about bridging community to families, from the district to, teachers to students. Like that's just that whole idea.
It's also where I find the age.
Okay, so we should put a couple stick figures on there.
That's what you did.
Yeah, so this company worked really well with us. There were like 4 different shapes of the bridge, too thick, too thin, and then they came back with this final, which is the 2-tone dark reds, which we thought looked really nice. So that's the brand mark on the left. You'd see that on like social media, on the top of letterhead. On the right, that's what we would call the logo on the top. The bottom, where it says Achieve, Explore, Connect, that's our logo with the mission, and that's those 3 words. And then the other was just the same version, just on the banner. So this is kind of a soft launch. You'll see it on all of our, our agendas and all of our documents coming up in a couple of weeks. But you can tell by this slide deck that I put together, we're using the new color scheme, and the new font. Like that font that's up there is the one that they identified for us, and we have a color palette of about, some colors that we can use. So
You get the Vanry letter?
I'll have to get, yes. So we have to talk about who's going to help us do some changes. So just the front. We just have to get the front of the logo.
What on the side there?
That has a logo.
Blue.
Oh, yeah, this side. So these are just dates that I think you all are aware, but our staff come back for 2 days, August 31st and September 1st. A large chunk of that day on the 31st is safety training around SRP. On the second day, we have a session in the morning for elementary and middle, and later that morning for the high school with a gentleman who's been working with our district for a number of years. He's coming in to do some work around de-escalation strategies in a tier 1 setting. So in a classroom setting, teachers have been asking for strategies around sort of how to de-escalate students in a classroom setting. So this is a psychiatrist that's been working in consultation with the district for a while and becoming in. Yeah, he's not charging us for this either. So, but it was arranged by Student Services, and this is something both our parent union and our teachers. Coupled with that, he's also going to do an overview of the policy that's on the agenda. So that'll be day 2, and then there'll be time both those days for them to do some faculty meeting time, room set up, all that stuff. So we're excited to welcome people, and that's all I have.
Okay, we have no subcommittee reports that I'm aware of.
Oh, I'm sorry, there was one more item.
Sorry.
I sent you an email, but I wanted to make sure that Ellen's here if there are questions around the tech lease. I won't go over the whole thing again unless people questions answered, but we did have a shipment delivered today of the laptops. 105 laptops, which are for staff. We're still waiting on the student Chromebooks and the desktops that will go into labs. Ellen has communicated, Val put together a communication. She sent it to her staff. I sent it to the union and to you. We sent one out to the whole district, and then there's one that we're planning by the end of the week for the parents, just so that they know, particularly parents in grades 1, 5, and 9, so that they're aware that their children won't have Chromebooks right away. based on some of the conversations we've been having at the meeting, there's some parents that might welcome
I
that.
know,
Ones that didn't want
I
the
have to-
screen time, it'll be a little bit of a slow start, but it's really unfortunate. I give Ellen and Dan a lot of credit for their tenacity around this and working hard with leasing companies, but, you know, last year, the company that we used kind of gave us a heads up that this might be a problem if the town didn't have their accounts in order. And I think we were hopeful that because we had one additional audit this year, that would be enough. It just wasn't. We've leased with them for
Over 17.
over 17 years. And never missed a payment. You know, we've never defaulted on a payment. We've never, right? And these are, you know, leases that range from $150,000 to $200,000 in that range, right? So we're a good customer, and yet their financial team just wasn't going to continue. So I don't know if this was sort of a tough
because
law
of the town, not because of us.
That's right. So it was not anything to do with school department's finances or anything that we did. Ellen got this rolling in May, like she typically does. Part of the problem was, you know, we were trying to work with them, so we were hopeful. Like we may have, if we knew this was hopeless earlier on, we might have been able to get ahead of this. But I think we were really hoping that it would work with this company because they've been excellent. And now we're just behind the wheels on a whole lot.
Did the town inform us of their bond rating issue formally?
No, I don't think that came out. I think it was just discovered when we were preparing.
Isn't that something
Trying
the
to
town
get
should inform us of?
Sorry, say again.
Isn't that something the town should inform us of because it affects us?
You know, I mean, perhaps, the only time I could think of like the bond rating is in this circumstance. We don't have a lot of leases this large, so it probably wouldn't normally come up for us. We don't normally have to provide vendors with this kind of information, but because we're not typically borrowing money this way, it's like, you know, so. Just with that one here, I wanted to make sure if anyone had questions or whatnot, that we did that. I do want to thank her and Dan, you know, and I do want to thank Neil because he did work to get us the information that he could from town hall. Just unfortunately, they didn't have everything. So they do have an audit schedule that should have the audits updated by like late winter. So when we go out again next spring, whether we go with the same company, we try and go back or whatever, we should be in a better position to give them the town's financial statements that is adequate enough for us to get this successfully. I think what people didn't necessarily understand, like it's twofold. If we didn't have the devices, that's one thing, like that's critical. But the impact of the next budget, if we miss a cycle, is, you know, Ellen set this up over time that it's so well planned that it's a quarter of our inventory gets done every year for a 4-year lease. And there's no other way to do it financially. And we would have been looking at a real issue in next year's budget to add another couple $100,000 to double the lease. And now you're in that cycle forever, right? Because you have equipment that's not timed right.
Seems that the audio and video is not working on the broadcast. On the, like, the general public's end. Sorry.
I'll have to go down to HUD-TV.
It looks like the other HUD-TVs are not.
Oh, meaning like if it's on.
People watching from home.
Okay.
Can't hear us or can't see us or both?
Yeah, so for a while they could hear but not see. Sorry, I just figured I should share.
No,
that.
it's okay.
Should we pause for a minute?
Doesn't seem to be an
If
issue.
it's recorded.
Let me go down to HUD-TV and check.
Probably keep going.
I think it thinks it's recorded, so we should.
All right, so we have no substantive reports. Next, we have matters for discussion, old business district space needs study.
Yeah, I just wanted to alert the committee at the July meeting. I mentioned that I put together a Google form for you to give us feedback on the 10 different proposals that were out there. So I've completed that. So if you could just look in your inbox tomorrow morning, I'll have it out to you by midday tomorrow. My hope is that you can, I set it up in a way that you can see visually what each setup look like, each recommendation look like.
Is that just going up to the committee? Or
Just the committee. I want to start with the 7 of you, and then it gives you an opportunity to just sort of rate each one on a Likert scale, just to give a quick glance at what people think, and then an opportunity to just give comments you might want to say sort of towards strengths or weaknesses for each of them. So I set it up so it could be pretty quick for you. Even if you don't have comments, the scale will help me hopefully then see, unless we're all in different places. The hope is that that helps me sort of knock off maybe 4 of them, right? When we come to the meeting on September 8th, I can elevate the, say, 3 that the committee seemed to rally around, and that can give us direction in terms of where we go with inviting the public in to engage.
We're going to the finance committee meeting in October, so anybody that wants to go to that.
They actually asked us to come and talk about it,
I
so.
don't know the date off the top of my head.
So I think by then, by that October meeting with finance committee, we should be really gelling around 1, potentially 2, and, start talking to them about the costs and the implications of that. But that gives us September and October to think about, do we want to have a hearing that happens prior to the school committee meeting, and we would like the public in? Do we want to do it on a separate night? I'm fine to do it any way the committee wants to. I just want to make sure we find a way to engage with them. Are they on Tuesday?
Is October 19th on Monday night?
I thought it was more like the 15th.
Is it their Mondays?
16th, maybe.
The select board is on.
We emailed about it. I don't know if we ever got the official invitation from them.
We'll have to check, because I don't see it on here, I just don't know the night.
It would be whatever night the finance committee has for their scheduled meeting.
Can I just ask 2 quick questions before we do the survey that came up since the last time we did just a high-level overview? Is the town definitely in support of the sale of Apsley Street?
So I haven't had like a formal conversation with anyone about it, but I would get the sense that, yeah, there was a report that was done. I don't know what the planning board, somebody did a report that talked about Apsley Street. We were not a part of it, and it indicated they were going to sell it next to the condominiums, which I chuckle at because it's the school committee has control over that building, so for them to, but. So
It seems likely they would sell it, like the old Hudson High School that was on Belton Street was turned into condos. I don't know if the town would support revamping that building for town use or not, and if not, I think they would sell it.
So it just feels like that might be a really important detail to make sure that we have clarification on before we get too far down the rabbit hole of comparing different options that all come back to Apsley Street for the most part. And then related to that, maybe we have the answer to this, but do we know if there are any like historical society protections that we need to consider that could impact whether or not we have the ability to actually like demo Apsley, even if the town wants to repurpose the property?
Yeah, that, I'd have to, don't quote me on this, but someone had told me that it was not on sort of the National Historical
It's not on
Register.
that, it's not on that register.
So I don't believe there's anything that prevents something from it being demolished. I believe it does have a recognition, there is a plaque on the outside of it, but it's not. I don't understand fully sort of what the different levels are, but the building isn't sort of protected. And I know that.
If we left that building, it would come out of our budget. It would become the town's responsibility.
Yeah, I think in most municipalities that I've worked in, there would have to be some sort of action by the school committee to basically control that building back to the town. And then they would be able to dispose of it in any way. You raise a good question. My question is, and I don't know if it's me reaching out to Tom to reach out to the select board chair to ask the question, like, if the school committee were to say, we don't want this building, are you prepared to take it, right, and do something with it? I think what they'll find is, sell it to a developer is one thing, because they'll do what they, to turn that into either usable space for the school department or for the town is gonna be so cost ineffective.
Right.
That they wouldn't even, because that's what we initially had thought before I came back to the superintendency, they had a plan to sort of refurbish that building, and then they realized how expensive it was going to be, that it just wasn't worth it because of the ADA upgrades that need to be done to it. And that's why they came to do the windows or the roof floor, because that all was too costly. It would trigger all these other, you'd have to put an elevator in, you'd have to put, so, but I can reach out to Tom and ask him that. It's an interesting question, I just know.
Because if we ran into any unexpected roadblocks there and then spent hours and hours talking about options that weren't going to be feasible, I think it would be a good use of our time.
Yeah, one of the questions I'll ask Tom is like, who is it that I asked? Like, I don't know, is that a question for the planning board, is that a question for the select board? And if he needs me to go to a meeting, have that conversation, because it's true that we can say that every one of our plans involves closing that
Right.
building.
So it would be some sort of action between the school committee and the select board.
Yeah.
Because the school, we don't own the building, the town, it's like any other building, we don't own it. We can-
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like we need to know where they stand on it before we make decisions.
Yeah, because one of the things you don't want either is we abandon it as part of this plan, thinking it's going to be a sale, and that doesn't happen, and it just sits vacant, and we're not getting any benefit from it. 'Cause I think part of that plan has to be, we'll sell it for this, and that money will go towards, that's what we're thinking, right? We'll go towards whatever master plan we're developing. You know, and there is one other option that, you know, isn't reflected in the survey, but I think we should discuss it when we look at which ones elevate in September, and that's just ignoring the schools and just making a decision around what we do with the central office, which would just be involving Absent Street, right? So like us, you know, looking around and seeing what a lease option would be in local buildings in town. There's not a lot of options in Hudson that would work for us, that may, you know, but we did that years ago. We should do that again, I think, part of this, because that would certainly be the simplest option, right? We wouldn't be looking at any renovations or any changes to any of the schools. It's not a sort of long-term vision at all, but it's a quick fix to get us on apps before something catastrophic happens, that ends up costing a lot of money. So that's all I wanted to do there, just alert people that that's going into your inboxes and say, okay, get that on the agenda for September.
Okay. Next, we have new business, which we have none, matters for action, old business policy, JKAA, physical restraint and timeout, second reading.
So I look back at my notes, there were no sort of recommendations around this, so it's essentially the same version as we looked at back in July. And if there are no recommendations to change, then I would look at the committee to vote the policy as is. For those that, I can't remember who was or wasn't here in July, I know we had
I was
a
on.
small group. So this was a combination of a MASC policy and something from our attorneys together. So we put them together and make sure that we were covering all bases. It's basically new regulations that came out in Massachusetts that went into effect August 18th.
Is it something you need to train teachers on?
Yes, so this will be part of that training we're doing on the 31st. We have actually an administrator training on Thursday morning. Teachers on the 31st. I'm sorry, the first, it's the second day.
A quick question, I didn't ask it last time. For these rooms, right, like in the timeout part of the policy, you need to have an appropriate room or area.
Yep.
Does every school have an appropriate room or area or enough appropriate rooms or areas?
Yes. Yep. So we have a timeout space in each room. The one at the high school currently right now, and this is common, if we have a student that, it's usually students that identify as needing that space. It's not every student that goes in there. Like, for example, the room at the high school, I believe, if you went there now, the door has actually been removed and stored. So it's not necessary, you don't need that space based on enrollment right now, but they're set up in each of the rooms so that kids have a place to go if they need to be, where they can be safe and monitored appropriately. They have the right appropriate hardware on the doors so that they're not, we can secure them and they're safely, but they're not locked in. So all of that was done. And we actually had someone from the state, they come out every couple of years anyway, and they were out last spring and checked these spaces and just make sure they're all.
I just had one quick question that I also didn't ask last time, but one of the expectations, the preconditions for use of emergency seclusion is that there has to be psychological or behavioral justification by a licensed mental health provider. Does that happen from one of our staff internally or through mobile crisis, a consultant?
No, there's a form that, so if there's a crisis that we feel like we need to do something for safety, that the staff would move in that direction. What we have now is a state form of, if we have a kid that seemed to need this type of intervention more regularly, that this form would be given to that child's family's physician or mental health professional, that they would essentially sign off so that we have that form on file, that we're able to do that. So we have that document. And I think it'll be case by case, whether or not we're trying to be proactive with that. It's all going to depend on the student themselves. So in a meeting with the family, to say, look, like this is something that we may need to do. We'd like to have this done now. Or it's after the fact and we decide that we have to make adjustments.
Right, that makes sense to me, but if there was an emergency situation that came up during the school day, something that we already didn't have that documentation for, we still need to have the justification documented by a licensed mental health professional. So I just want to make sure that we have a plan for, in those moments, would we use our school psychologist or mobile crisis, or do we have someone that we consult with?
Yeah, so internally it would be, Lisa's on, I don't want to put her on the spot, but if she hears this and she wants to pop in, but each building does have, school psychologists, school adjustment counselors, and they would generally be on scene when something like this were occurring. And that's who we would refer to. We do use mobile crisis, but that isn't immediate and quick. Whenever if we're restraining or secluding, like, it's sort of an I don't want to say all hands on deck, but the people that know that they need to be there are on scene, either right there or they're close by. That's who we would refer to. Stocking.
Any other questions? Is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve policy JKAA, physical restraint timeout on second reading. Second.
All those in favor? 5-0. Next, we have new business superintendent's evaluation timeline for 2026-2027 school year.
I really was thinking about this already. I'm just trying to get ahead of things a little bit here. I think in the past, we've vacillated between having the school committee look at this first or the subcommittee look at this first, but since we had a meeting tonight, I just thought I would just share a draft with folks. It really mirrors what we've done in the past, but this allows me to just have an idea what we're looking at, and also for Zach, Marsh, and Chris, once he was not here, but Zach and Marsh, to see if it's possible for them, not tonight while we're sitting here, but just to sort of take a look at their calendars and seeing if those two dates that I proposed, which would be September 17th and October 1st, work. And if not, we can do an email back and forth and kind of find the time. The thinking is that second meeting would be if the subcommittee feels like it's necessary. So like I would present you draft goals on the 17th. If there were just minor changes, I can always give you an update via email. And if you're satisfied, we don't have to have the second meeting, but that'll be up to you.
Both of those dates are fine with me, Zach.
And the meeting could be at any time. That works for you. It doesn't have to.
Yeah, that should work for me too.
Okay. So I can pencil those in and check, and I can send a follow-up email and include Chris.
I just schedule it.
We can go from there. I think last time we did them a little earlier, maybe 5:30, but I don't know how that works for your work schedule, or if you'd rather do it later.
5:30 works for me.
Okay. The rest of it really mirrors what we've done in the past.
Do we need to vote on this timeline tonight?
It's helpful to have a vote, but if you want to review it, I can bring it back.
No.
And we can vote again. It can always be modified too.
Motion to approve the proposed 2026-2027 timeline for the superintendent's evaluation process.
Second.
All those in favor? 5-0.
Brian, this will be it, absolutely.
Sure, yeah, that works for you guys.
Yeah.
And I don't book a room here. Which is gonna be easy.
Next, we have the consent agenda, and the only thing on it is the approval of the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion to approve the minutes, the consent agenda, I'm sorry. Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Items of interest to the school committee? I have none.
I just have one quick thing. I know we're obviously going to continue to talk about our tech policies in schools and all of those things, but I did come across one thing. You told me to receive the email as well. I don't know anything about this. I haven't tried it myself, but there is an app called Mobile Safe Zones that is offering a 14-day trial, and it's something that parents can actually download on their kids' phones, and it uses geofencing technology. So once they're within the confines of the address that you enter, which could be actually your home or your school, it shuts down all access to certain sites, social media, and then the child still has their phone, but they don't have access to certain sites. So while parents are kind of sharing their input and we're thinking about policies, if it's something that individual people wanted to look into, again, it's called Mobile Safe Zones. I haven't tried it myself, so I'm just passing it along as a resource that we received, and we can get a 14-day trial. So if people wanted to try it at the beginning of school and give us feedback, it might be helpful, but it's definitely something that parents could choose to use if they wanted to.
We do relate to that, we do have that survey ready to go out. I added your feedback into our line. I don't know if it's this week or she's gonna do it right after school started. We were afraid if we did it in the summer, it would miss a lot of people, so.
And then secondly, just, I know we're not talking about budget today, and we're not going to start that conversation right now, but with the announcements from Mark Healy, is everything matching the budget that we approved? Are there pretty much, okay,
Yep.
perfect.
Anybody else? We do not need an executive session, so we need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? We're adjourned at 8:07.
Yeah, I was just checking the school committee.